the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and hypothetical modern parallels, historical causation, escalation risks, and legal analysis. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, stands as one of history's most consequential acts of political violence. It served as the immediate catalyst for the outbreak of World War I, a conflict that reshaped the global order. In contrast, contemporary discussions sometimes invoke hypothetical scenarios involving high-profile political figures, such as U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, to explore whether a similar targeted killing could trigger World War III. While the structural conditions of 1914 made escalation nearly inevitable, today's international environment renders such an outcome far less likely, though not impossible. This essay analyzes the two situations through historical, geopolitical, and legal lenses. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and the outbreak of World War I. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was killed by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist affiliated with the Black Hand Society. The attack occurred amid deep ethnic tensions in the Balkans, where Slavic nationalism clashed with Austro-Hungarian imperial control. Serbia, supported culturally and diplomatically by Russia as a fellow Slavic power, provided a permissive environment for such extremism. The assassination did not single-handedly cause World War I, but it ignited a chain reaction due to rigid alliance systems. Austria-Hungary issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia, seeking to crush nationalist threats. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany backed Austria-Hungary. France and Britain, bound by alliances and strategic interests, entered the fray. Within weeks, Europe was at war. The event succeeded as a spark because of underlying conditions: militarism, imperialism, nationalism, and entangling alliances, the famous MAIN causes. Historians debate the degree of Serbian government complicity or Russian foreknowledge, but the great powers' willingness to risk general war over a regional crisis proved decisive. Hypothetical. Could the assassination of Lindsey Graham trigger World War III? Senator Lindsey Graham, a prominent U.S. foreign policy hawk, known for strong support of Ukraine, Taiwan, and deterrence against Russia and China, represents a very different context. A hypothetical assassination of Graham, whether by a foreign state actor, proxy, or domestic extremist, would undoubtedly provoke outrage in the United States. It could intensify partisan divisions, trigger investigations, and escalate diplomatic rhetoric. However, several factors make a direct slide into World War III improbable. Absence of rigid alliances. Unlike 1914 modern alliances, NATO, U.S. bilateral treaties are defensive and deterrence-oriented. Nuclear weapons create mutual assured destruction, discouraging total war. Nuclear deterrence and escalation ladders. Major powers possess sophisticated escalation management tools. A political assassination, while inflammatory, is more likely to result in sanctions, cyber operations, proxy responses, or targeted retaliation than full-scale conventional, let alone nuclear, war. Information environment and attribution. In 1914, information traveled slowly and alliances activated automatically. Today, real-time intelligence, public scrutiny, and difficulties in conclusive attribution, false flags, non-state actors, allow more time for de-escalation. Economic interdependence, global supply chains, energy markets, and financial systems tie major powers together in ways absent in 1914. Leaders understand the catastrophic costs of great power war. That said, it is not impossible for such an event to contribute to escalation. If attribution clearly pointed to a state actor, for example, Russia or Iran, and occurred amid heightened tensions, such as a direct NATO-Russia clash over Ukraine or a Taiwan crisis, it could serve as a rallying cry for hawks, accelerate military aid, or justify limited strikes. Domestic U.S. politics could amplify calls for revenge, complicating diplomacy. In extreme scenarios involving miscalculation or pre-existing flashpoints, it might accelerate a slide toward broader conflict, though still far less mechanically than in 1914. Conclusions on likelihood. The death of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was a high-probability trigger in a brittle system. The hypothetical death of Lindsey Graham would be a serious incident, but far more containable in our more resilient, if still dangerous, multipolar order. Structural differences, nuclear weapons, economic ties, and flexible diplomacy reduce the risk dramatically. Legal analysis. Under international law, the assassination of a high-ranking foreign official raises profound issues. State responsibility. If a state directs or supports an assassination, for example via intelligence services, it violates the UN Charter's prohibition on the use of force, Article 2, 4, and Principles of Sovereignty. The 1973 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crimes Against Internationally Protected Persons, which covers diplomats and high officials, criminalizes such acts. Attribution is key. Mere inspiration or safe haven, as arguably with Serbia in 1914, may not suffice for full liability today. Self-defense. The victim state, for example the U.S., could invoke Article 51 of the UN Charter for self-defense. However, responses must be necessary and proportionate. A targeted killing might justify limited countermeasures, sanctions, or intelligence operations, but not disproportionate war. Domestic versus international dimensions. If carried out by non-state actors, the host state has a due diligence obligation to prevent and punish. Failure could lead to state responsibility, as in the Corfu Channel or Tehran hostages cases. U.S. legal framework. Domestically, such an act against a U.S. senator would trigger federal murder statutes, potential terrorism designations, and Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA scrutiny. Internationally, the U.S. might pursue extradition, bounties, or covert action under existing authorities, AUG, AUMFs or Title 50 intelligence powers, subject to congressional oversight and constitutional limits. A Graham assassination would likely produce swift UN Security Council debate, International Court of Justice proceedings, if state-sponsored, and sanctions regimes. Unlike 1914, where legal norms were weaker and alliances trumped law, contemporary institutions provide avenues for managed response rather than automatic war. In summary, while the 1914 assassination illustrates how individual violence can exploit systemic fragility, a modern equivalent involving a figure like Lindsey Graham would test, but likely not break, the post-1945 order designed precisely to prevent such cascades. Vigilance, clear attribution, and proportionate responses remain essential to avoiding worst-case outcomes. History offers warnings, not rigid predictions.